Afternoon, everyone. Just wait for everyone to come over from the waiting room. Recognising some names from last week, so it's lovely to have people back again today. Um, if you haven't already done so, if you could just scan that QR code and complete the form, just the event registration form. It's a couple of questions about you, your business, just that it goes off to the Department of Trade so that we can continue bringing these workshops to you for free. And it basically means that we can give you follow-up support that's relevant to you. So it's just a couple of quick questions. If you don't know the answer to them, like if you don't know your UTR number off the top of your head, just put we'll add in later or something. So yeah, don't worry if you don't know all the answers. Some of the questions are quite specific. Um, but yeah, we'll get started. Happy Monday. This is I was trying to remember what day of the week it is. It seems later in the week already. Yeah, happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to this Kent and Medway Growth Hub online webinar today. We are doing all about customer service today. So we've got Mike and Paul back with us, our experts in high streets and everything. So I hope you all have got loads of tips and tricks from last week, have implemented them in your businesses, seen your impact. And today we're going to focus on developing customer satisfaction. Yeah. So the Kent and Medway Growth Hub, just to tell you a bit about us before we get started, we are a one-stop shop, everything to do with business support. So we can offer you business advice. We've got a mentoring scheme you can be a part of. We run events, networking events. We offer support on finance. So anything you need to scale up your business, to grow your business, to expand, we're the one-stop shop. And anything we don't know, we can offer support and signpost you in the direction of people. But we're your one-stop shop, no nonsense business support, basically. So I will pass over to Mike and Paul. But if you, again, same as last week, if you have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A section or the chat, and we will come to them all at the end of the webinar. It's an hour webinar, so hopefully you've all got a nice hot cup of tea and you're ready to go with your customer service.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Paul Frater here, joined by Mike Evans. We're going to be talking you through some tips and techniques to deliver excellent customer service. Why is that important? Well, what is customer service? It covers anything from your first impressions, how your staff interact with your customers, opening up at the same time every day. All these things are kind of key elements of customer service. But why is it important? Because if you do it right, it can help you increase sales. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. This is the second of 4 workshops that we're doing for Kent and Medway Growth Hubs. Last week was all about increasing customers, and that video is available on YouTube. We've also got a couple more next week and the following Monday, 2 weeks today. Next week is about improving promotions to also drive sales, both in your premise, but also virtual and online, social media, etc. And then the fourth of the 4 workshops is about planning for the future. So basically, how can you grow your business in a very methodical and planned way, which if you've got a plan, you can monitor it and then you can deliver those improvements. But anyway, that's enough preamble. We're going to focus on customer service and how it can help sales from now on. What we would say is, obviously, we can't see anyone at the moment apart from the panelists. So if you have got any questions, please do either write them in the chat facility or submit them via the Q&A facility, which is the button at the bottom of your screen. If you've got any specific issues or something that you want to improve, if you let us know what that is or what the question is, as we go through the slides, we can make sure that we answer that particular issue that you have. And we're keen to help people on an individual basis. So the other thing I would say is have a piece of paper. I've got my notepad here, but have a piece of paper in front of you. And as we go through the presentation, please do make a note of the actions which are relevant for your business. I promise you, I guarantee you, there will be at least 10 to 15 really important tips that we're going to suggest. We're going to highlight stories that other people have, examples of what other people have done. So please do write them down, and we do expect you to have 10 to 15 tips at the end on your action sheet. So the more that you list, the better it is for you, the better it is for us as well. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Mike, and he's going to talk you through our presentation on customer service.
Hi there. So, yeah, as Paul and Sarah said, it's this is all about not only what is customer service, but actually using good customer service to increase sales. And we make no bones about it. The best way to grow business is to help your customers to spend even more with you, be that linked sales, be that the complete sale, but actually at its nub, helping customers is a core reason for good customer service. We start with the most basic of questions. What is excellent customer service? Nice, easy place to start. It's at its most basic, it's having products on the shelf. It's about how you present it, how you make it easy for the customer to find them. Many years ago, we did a piece of work for a chain of convenience stores, and we actually got the management team to go through a process to identify what were the best sellers and then how easy it was to find those best sellers and buy them within their stores. And at the end, we had to cancel the workshop as several members of the senior management team were almost coming to blows because they were disagreeing. But the fundamental was it wasn't that easy for the customer. So, as Paul said, it's those first impressions. It's being open when people expect you to be open. It's how you look, it's whether it's clean, whether the windows are clean, whether you've got lights on. All of these things set the tone. And that's before we start to talk about the interaction between team members and customers. The one thing I would point out right from the get-go, customer service isn't just about that person-to-person contact. The whole of your business needs to deliver good customer service. And I'll tell you one thing that it isn't. Customer service is not a promotional tool. Again, many years ago, there was a large retail brand that had stores all over the country. And I remember being in the shop and at the till point, and there was a member of staff, had their name badge on, uniform, looked very smart, all presentable. And then underneath the badge, it said, "This is customer service week." So I'm sort of going, okay, what happens for the other 51 weeks of the year? So it's not a promotional tool. It's something that has to be built into your business.
I think another quick example would be we were working for Motown Hotels a little while ago, doing a feasibility study, helping them become basically better at customer service, using that to drive sales. And one of the things we said, look, guys, if you have driven for 5 hours to get to a hotel, the last thing that I want to do when I check in is for people to say, "Oh, what time do you want to get up and join a newspaper?" I want to chill. I want to be able to relax. I want a cup of tea. I want a beer, gin and tonic, whatever. And so rather than asking them as soon as they've arrived, "What time do you want waking up?" Why not ask them, "We'll take you to the room. Can we bring you a drink? Can we bring you a gin and tonic?" And I think that's just, in many ways, customer service has just been that one step ahead of the customer, almost anticipating the customer needs before they've actually raised it themselves or even were aware of it themselves. And here we go. Here's some good examples of
some good and some maybe not so good nowadays. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Banks used to be held up as examples of good customer service on the basis that you can't find them on a high street now. That's probably a big question mark over that. But there are the reason for asking this question is to not only to encourage you to start thinking about, well, actually, who does give good customer service? And obviously, the next thing is, what do they do? But actually, the realization is that good customer service differs in all sorts of businesses. It's some of it is very much in person, detailed, one-to-one contact, explanation of product, helping people select. But in other businesses, the supermarkets, there are very few staff. It's about having the product on the shelf. It's about having something at the right price. It's about having the till point working effectively. It's about being able to take the goods to the car in the trolley, whatever it might be. There are different expectations on customer service are driven by what people want at a particular moment in time. Fast food operators, the secret to good customer service is the clues in the name. It's about getting the product to the customer quickly. There's some debate about the quality of the product and the taste of the product, but it's an essential requirement. Strangely, for many years, we were all happy to go to the bar in a pub, but one of the outcomes of COVID is that increasingly more and more pubs will come to the table and take your order. That service dynamic has changed considerably, and even the coffee shops, where people are quite happy to queue and wait, but actually, even within take a chain, a national chain, if you've got Cafe Nero at Victoria Station, the team there have to be able to really quickly make the coffee at the right quality, at the right temperature, and get it to you so that you're not queuing and waiting. Whereas in my small town here on the edge of Kent, people seem to be quite happy to stand there and wait in the queue and chat to the person behind them while they're waiting for the barista to almost, perform some sort of art on top of the coffee cup. So anyway, sorry, Paul, go on.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay, enough. Right, stop beating up the baristas. So I think that as we've already touched on, it's customer service in any retail environment in the broadest sense is far more than just the person to contact. So when you're thinking about your business and the service you deliver, there are some simple points here, but actually one of the things that we actually encourage businesses to do, and we can, a version of this grid will be available when this workshop's on the YouTube. But take time. What am I doing that's good? And where are the areas that I could improve? Have I got basic opening hours? Have I got the right product in the right shelf? Have I got, is the store clean enough? Is it well lit enough? Have I actually got customer car parking spaces earmarked as customer car parking for those that have the luxury of being able to do that? Are there additional services that I can provide? So there's a whole raft of things. It's much more than the simple question, how can I help you? And again, far better when you do that is to ask, how can I help you? Not, can I help you? Because can I help you is a yes, no answer. How can I help you tends to lead on to a conversation.
I think it's also probably worth saying that obviously, whilst we talk about shops and businesses, we don't just mean people on the high street. Obviously, there are lots of businesses we work with don't have either fixed premises or they work from home, sell on Etsy, sell online. So we've made a conscious effort so the presentation does contain valid and relevant tips for you as well. So it's not just about shops, it's about all businesses who are selling directly to domestic customers.
I mean, actually, it's probably if you're without premises, then you've even got to think even in more detail about the service you deliver, the how you deliver it, how you explain it, and what drives that. So I think that is one of the key things, and Paul's made reference to the action. I mean, a first hint for some actions is take a think about what it is that you do, what it is that you're currently doing. Be credible, be realistic, speak to the rest of the team, even ask your customers, but then start to make those areas, where can I find some opportunities to improve? It's very rare for any business to not be able to improve the service in some way, shape or form.
I think that the one thing I would add to that is make it easy for the customer to contact you. It's becoming increasingly difficult. If you've got something which goes wrong, I had something the other week. I needed to go to an Asda store specifically for something, and I was trying to find out whether it was basically dropping off an Amazon package, and the thing wasn't working for a couple of days. So I tried to phone them on Thursday. Can you get through to that store? No chance. Can you get a message through to that store? No chance. Could I find out whether it was worth me making the third trip of last week to find out whether it was still working? No. So I ended up going on Sunday, and guess what? It still wasn't working. So basically, whether it's through social media, telephone, email, direct message, make sure your Google business profile is up to date. Make sure it's easy for people to get hold of you, and obviously make sure that you then speak to them when they do get hold of you.
Yeah. I mean, we go back to my days running retail businesses, which were on high streets. And even when we were taking a telephone call, what we would always do is we would say, we'll get back to you in 10 minutes. And then we got back to them in 5. Even if within 5 was, we don't have an answer, we're working on an answer. So we would set a target and then beat it. The flip side, again, a trap or a mistake even, that lots of businesses start with is they go, this is the service we want to deliver. We recommend you actually think slightly laterally and go, what is the service that our customers want from us? What type of service are they looking for? Because the expectation of consumers varies by the type of business they go into. So in other words, it's just take a step back and start to think about what is it that my customers want. And then the way to think about that is to start by, well, what sort of customers have I got? Who are they? What sort of people? Age, demographic, profile, lifestyle. Why are they in the town? Are they browsers, shoppers, workers? Because each of them will have a different criteria on speed of service. What's their age, their family circumstance? The number one thing for a mum with a buggy or a pram is the key thing is being able to get into the store, into the premises, into the coffee shop, into the library, into the estate agents in a way that they can, with the buggy, it's easy for them, or if it's a wheelchair disability customer, again, what's the income, what's the expenditure, what's my typical price point, is the service matching the quality of my product, the quality of my environment? Why are they coming to you? Are they coming for advice? Are they coming to buy a product? Are they regulars? Are they occasionals? So all of these things, the more you can think about that, the more it will start for you to set their customer service expectation. We've worked with one business was an IT support business, and they had long-term contracts with people, and what they realized was that some of their businesses, almost the small single owner-operator clients, their need was almost more urgent than a larger business, because if their single system broke down, then they were absolutely scuppered. Larger businesses might have alternative bits of hardware that they can move things around. So they adapted their response rate, not on the size of the contract, but on the size of the business, to make sure that they were being positioned as giving that good level of business. So, and again, why are we doing this? I'm being purely commercial. The reason you're thinking about this, thinking about the customer service, is that the better the service, the more your customers will come back to you, the more they will talk about you to other people, the more they will share their service experience. I had a double tire blowout outside of Westerham, and in a country lane during the middle of the day, very dark, trees overhanging. I was worried about being hit by somebody else coming down this country lane. I eventually got hold of a mobile tire repair company. They turned up they said they'd be there in 2 hours. They got there in 35 minutes. And I must have been the 15th customer of the day that this person changed the tire for. He couldn't have been happier in his work. He was a delight. I actually said to him before he drove off, I said, I have to take a picture of the van and share it with your van and share it with my friends, so that if they're ever stuck, this is who they go to. And the other thing was that the price was also competitive. I wasn't being overcharged for this service. So, it's all too easy to build that story and give the customer a reason to recommend you.
That's great. Mike, can you move to the next slide? And then can I just say something? Okay, thank you. So we've had a question raised by Bradley online, and his question is basically they sell, sounds like hardware, they've got a long shop, and the question is, should they have some regularly bought items like batteries and light bulbs at the back of the shop, so everyone's got to walk through the whole of the shop in order to get the items they need? The short answer is probably not. If you attended last week, and certainly you'll hear us say a number of times, our mantra, our focus for our business is make it easy for your customers to buy from you. So basically, if you have some core products that people either typically come in for or they just happen to buy when you're there, make it as clearly obvious that you also sell those items. So, for instance, if you had your till point, you could have a stock of those nearby, but you could also have a very simple sort of menu of services behind the till point that says we also sell batteries, we also sell keys, we also sell all the kind of regular items that you sell most of. So if you don't necessarily have them displayed by your till point, make it very clear that you also sell those items. And at the end of the day, some people will have the time to wait for you to get stuff, but a lot of people just want to come in, they want to pick it up, and they want to leave. So the key thing to think about is how can I make it most easy for the customer?
Having paid first, not the levers or the lifters. But I think that you're right, Paul. Thank you. I would have said exactly the same. This is definitely about make it easy for the customer, and then also take that opportunity to make sure that somewhere near those high visit core selling items, we'll come on to this in a minute, is somewhere near that is you have the opportunity to promote the rest of the other key departments. Obviously, you can't list all 2,500 product lines, but you can remind people of the key departments. So,
sorry, Mike. Also, Amy's put, how would that relate to online only services? So again, I'm assuming they could put on their homepage, like Paul said, the key, like you've both said, the key things.
Absolutely. We one of the things that we say to lots of businesses, jumping around here, but we're going to talk about promotions next week, but I'll throw it in now, is that, one of the key things that businesses need to do on their homepage is to promote the strengths of the business, the core reasons for using them. So if that's your key product categories, there's the old retail or many business adage that 80% of the products come from 20% of the product lines. Make sure that those 20% of the product lines have some sort of visual, written, descriptive exposure on that core landing page. So again, so in other words, when somebody gets there, they go, I've come to the right place. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to click through 4 or 5 different pages to get to the right place. They know straight away.
I think also, just to pick up on Amy's question, I think, one of the reasons why your customers use you is because of you. So customers like independent businesses who they can trust, who they can relate to, who obviously they sell great products and deliver great service. So again, by sort of understanding who that customer is and almost anticipating what they're going to need in advance, you can make it easier for them to buy more. So last week we talked about, there are 2 key ways you can increase your turnover and your revenue. One is you get more customers. That's actually quite difficult to do. It's an incremental and slow process. Or the second option is you get your existing customers to spend more. And that's one of the key things that we're going to be talking about today. It's about taking that customer, and if you could just add if you can encourage them to buy one extra service, one extra product, upsell the next item up the list. If you can increase your that customer spend by 10-20%, and you do that with all your customers, you then got 20% more revenue directly on your bottom line. So it's a really key way to drive your business forward, which is think about what the customer wants to buy and just get them to spend that little bit more extra, which we're going to come on to in the remaining slides.
Paul's doing as usual now. He's pinched my next few slides, bless him. Anyway, but just to finish off on this one, I will come back just to say, think about the different customers and their needs. So whether that, and the 2 questions both reflect the customer needs. So structure the business to make it easy for the customer and to satisfy their needs. And I think that bear in mind that some business. We worked for an international shoe brand a few years ago, and one of the interesting things was we were creating a whole new customer service training program for the frontline staff. But actually what became clear was that they had customers who were workers who only had a few minutes, and then they had customers who were just browsers and they could spend lots of time. So one of the key things was to adapt your service to suit the needs of the customer, even within the same business. This is another plug to remind you to make notes of actions. And so normally we would ask people to waive their number of actions they've listed, but we can't see that, so we'll take it as read that you're coming on to some. So as Paul said, our view is that probably the most effective type of customer service is one that helps you increase sales, either increase sales at that particular transaction or at the next transaction or the subsequent one, or even to recommend other people. So increasing sales doesn't always have to be there and then. So we'll come on to that in a moment. So, the secret to selling more to existing customers, there are, and we'll touch on some of this list on the left-hand side in a bit more detail, but, linked purchases, quality upgrades, bulk buys, promotions, and then, as we say at the end, service. The better the service, the more propensity for increased spend and increased customer transactions. I was with a business up in Herne Bay and Sheerness, two businesses a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that we talked about there was actually at the end of one transaction, how could they make it easy to help the customer pre-order or commit to the repeat transaction? These were sort of consumables, whether it was these were toiletries, cosmetic products, and also home fragrance products. So how could you actually, knowing that how long it would last, how could you actually commit to that future purchase in some easy way? How can you give the customer the tools to do it? So these were all key things for driving those repeat transactions.
Just to pick up on that point, Mike, if you are a pure online business and say, for instance, providing services, whether it's sort of beauty services, therapy, natural remedies, etc., a simple one you could do is, as you finished one appointment and you're sort of wrapping up, book the next one in. And again, don't do it as a would you like to book another one in. It's a to make sure you get your next opportunity. When do you want to book the next appointment? Is it 4 weeks or 5 weeks? So again, it's just a little simple thing. It shows that you're anticipating customer needs. And the customer, if you've done a great job and provided a great service, they're going to be happy to say, yeah, fine, book me in for the next one. So, it doesn't have to be rocket science.
And equally under the it's not rocket science. Those that joined us last week, or if you come to future weeks, you'll know that there is a phrase that we use time and time again, no apology for it, about make it easier for the customer, whether that's make it easier for them to spend more with you, make it easier for them to find you, make it easier for them to recommend you. That simple little phrase, to the point of, if you're making a business decision, you should almost be going, will this make it easier for the customer? And if it doesn't, don't do it. Simple as. So, in terms of increasing customer spend, sharing your product knowledge, sharing your advice, sharing your understanding of the product and understanding of the customer needs is one great leg to build on. The other is this idea that we talk about, the complete sale, which I'll come back to in a moment. And also, the other thing with customer service, it's if you end up relying on purely the team to deliver the service, you will fail. The whole business, whether it's the shop environment, the online environment, whether it's you are a service provider and you delivering service in people's home, the whole experience has to deliver that good customer service. So, if we're looking at increasing average transaction values, and something that Paul just mentioned and touched on a moment ago, and if you're looking to increase the spend, then let's start with the stating the bleeding obvious, as they say. What's our current performance? What are we achieving at the moment? And we list here a variety of things that you can monitor and you can look at. But, you know, customer numbers in some way, shape or form is essential. The units per transaction is another way to look at it, so it becomes a non-financial measure. And also, if the other one is average transaction values, which of course is absolutely essential. If you're going to if you're going to start to look at increasing them, let's understand where we're at the moment. One of the things that we many years ago, Paul will fall asleep now. He's heard this example a zillion times. But you know, we worked with a small sandwich business, and they sold between 1,000 and 1,500 sandwiches a week. They were selling them for about £3.50 a go. And when we spoke to the owner of the business, we said, "What's your average transaction value?" And it was about £3.50. So what became clear to us was that basically they were selling one sandwich to each customer. They weren't selling any linked products. So we just said, look, you know, we did a diagram on a piece of paper, put the sandwich in the middle, said, what else do you buy? What else goes with it? What are the linked products that go with a sandwich? Well, if you're Paul Frater, his number one linked product is a bag of crisps. He can't eat a sandwich without having a bag of crisps. Then there's a bottle of water, a cup of coffee, a bottle of pop, chocolates, etc., etc., etc. All we did for Pauline and her one member of staff is that we did two different things. We changed the product presentation at the point of customer contact. So when they handed over the sandwich, they handed over the sandwich and they said, "What else would you like?" They did not say, "Would you like something else?" because that's yes, no. They said, "What else would you like?" And then merchandised around them, either physically in stock or virtually with signs, were all of the linked items. And when we spoke to Pauline, she said, "Do you know what? When we hand over the sandwich, you can literally see people looking around us." Her transaction value went to £4.15. Now, I know it's only another 65p, but times 1,000, times 1,500 people a week, that made a huge difference to their turnover and to their profitability. So, you know, the point here is it's a combination of what you offer, how you present it, how you talk about it, the messaging that goes with it, and simple things will increase that average. But the start point was understanding where we were and how it related to your typical price point.
So don't worry too much if you don't have hard and fast figures. You know, this is it's indicative by talking through the process, by talking through with your staff or your colleagues or even your customers, you can get a much better understanding of what people are buying, when and why. And then you can then think about, well, what else can I then offer them to purchase as well at the same time? So it doesn't have to be, you know, obviously a lot of businesses have got stuff loads of data and stuff loads of team to analyze them. We don't have those as micro SMEs, but by going through the same process, you can also start to understand a lot more about your customers and how you can then get them to spend that little bit more with you.
The average till will produce an X and a Z read. The average credit card machine will list the number of transactions and the total takings for the day. So there's some easy ways to get to this info, as well as the rule of thumb. The other thing is sometimes it's not about the actual selling price, but it's about your average, not about the average transaction price, but it's also about the typical selling price of your products. We worked with one gift business where they realized that their best selling price point was £15. So what they did is they tried to get more of the £10 to £12 products up to £15. So they were just increasing the ticket price, and that was increasing average transaction values. So, just have a think about what it is you monitor at the moment and the sort of things that you can monitor going forward. Other tools to use in terms of, and I've even stolen my own thunder here and I've jumped onto core and linked, but you know there's always core and linked products. With the good old mobile phone, when at the sort of start when they started moving from a business product to a consumer product, we were doing lots of work with some of the phone brands then, and of course the core is the phone, but the linked are the pods, the case, the screen protector, the extra charger, the insurance, etc., etc. So there will always be core and linked items. And some of those core items, which we come on to, are there for different reasons. The complete sale, and then also the role of the shop and the premises. And we'll come through to all of these. So in terms of, I've mentioned this one already, so I'm not going to do it again. Thank you. But in terms of, shamelessly, as a good consultant, I spend my life thinking in grids and charts and tables. Paul pulls his hair out at me and my tables all the time. But, quite simply, your core products can be core products for different reasons. They could be a seasonal item. It could be, a Mother's Day flower display. Well, if they're living flowers, then the linked items might be some plant food, might be a different pot. It might be some chocolates to go with the same thing. So there's a different type of present. But also you'll have your promotional items and your key promotional products. You might have something which is exclusive to you, so it's a category killer. All of these things it's not just about your top 10 best-selling items, but whatever it is you are featuring as the core product, build the other things around it. The fashion retailers for years have had items of clothing, picture of somebody wearing that clothing and the rest of the outfit. The supermarkets for years have done meal deals. Sorry, Paul, go on.
No, carry on.
Okay, right. So I think that once you've thought about what are the linked items that belong with this, then that's something you can share with the team. That's something that you can even pre-program into the till. You can start to say when somebody's buying something, you can go, oh, it will prompt you to say X, Y, Z. It's about how you then present the product in the store, in the window, online. And the same thing will go for, if you're providing a service. We had, last year, we were helping a heating and boiler one-man band. They've been going for 10, 12 years, had a good network of businesses and a good network of clients. And again, we just started to say, well, what he said, I've got clients who use me for the same things all the time. And so we said, well, have you told them about the other things you do? He said, well, yeah. Anyway, so all we got him to do was on his invoice, on his payment, thank you, was to add a complete menu of services. And he said he actually ended up having people say, I didn't know you did that. So all of a sudden he was getting people coming to him for other things. So he was increasing his transaction value. Here we go. The complete sale. One from bitter experience. So the other way, I noticed we never talk about an add-on. By definition, if you're selling something to a customer that's an add-on, the implication is that they may not need it or they might not need it. But the complete sale is about what are all the things that go with product X to make X work effectively. So I'm rubbish at DIY. Mrs. Evans sends me off to Wickes to buy some replacement silicone sealant for the shower. Off I go. Queue up, pay up, $5.99, come home, cut the end off, and then I'm going, how do I get it out? And I'm trying to ram a hammer into the back of it. No joy. Go online. Thank you very much, Google. Oh, I need a bloody gun. So anyway, so I go back to the store. The gun's $1.99. And the same person was on the checkout, and I said, why didn't you tell me that I needed the gun? And they just went, so it's like, for me, the complete sale. Provide good customer service, at least remind people that they need, Y and Z to make X work effectively. And of course, the more you do that, the more people will thank you for it and the more they'll come back to you. Outside of the sort of the complete sale, and we probably touched on this already, but it is worth repeating. Is that don't just rely on the person-to-person interaction. So whether you can start we use a phrase for lots of businesses where we say, a little bit of product information starts to share the story of that product and starts to give the reasons to buy that product. And so we talk about starter stories. So not trying to write, a page worth of text about a product, but just to give 2 or 3 bullet points of why this is a good product, and then clearly have the price. So it's about, in today's world, people are looking for reasons to choose to buy a particular product. So start to provide those reasons as part of that customer service. So, and then wherever that is, then make sure that the linked products are aligned with it, either through a ticket, graphic, explanation, or even just product adjacency. So have those logical adjacencies, and sometimes it's depending on the premises or depending on the size of the wonders of websites and social media is that you have potentially an infinite amount of space, providing you can get people to it quickly enough. But it's about displaying those linked products, and creating the picture, providing the picture, making it an easy thing for the customer to understand. At its most basic, give customers a basket. Don't let them, all too often I go to a local garden centre and you can see people juggling with products. It's and the garden centre team are head down, doing their jobs, getting on with work, not being head up, being customer aware, and offering to go and get a basket to make it easy for the customer.
Okay, just picking up on that, that also works online. So if you're selling an item, selling a product, selling a service which is being delivered to the customer, one of the things that's always really nice is for them to get a card which simply says, "Thank you for your order," and then your name. People will really respond to that level of service. And then you could also then say, "Did you know we're also selling X from next month, or we're also stocking this from this supplier from next month?" So that's just a little bit of sort of personal touch, personal recommendation. People like you, they're using you because you're an independent business. Don't ever forget that. Don't be afraid just to offer people advice, offer people some sort of recommendations, and you'll be amazed how many people will just take you at face value and trust you. Okay.
So just mindful of time and making sure we've got some time for questions. I'll just draw it to a close, Paul, and then we can field any additional questions or any specific from anybody that's in the workshop. So hopefully a number of you will have achieved Paul's target of 10 to 15 actions. So fingers crossed, I hope so. And certainly, we like to. The more actions that businesses make a note of, the better the workshop, we believe. So in terms of just wrapping it up, the prime function of delivering excellent customer service is to make sure is to increase your sales. I mean, that's it. Yeah, we're commercial entities in some way, shape, or form, and the better the service you deliver, the better it will be for your revenues. The better the service, the more customers will come back to you, the more they'll talk about you, the more they'll recommend you. We're in a world of that's driven by recommendations and referrals. Many of those recommendations and referrals are almost accidental. They're going to happen by accident. But actually, the more you can deliver outstanding customer service, the more you can deliver the right customer service for that customer. That's the other key point here is it's not always standardized. It's the right service for that customer. And sometimes at that moment of time, horrible phrase, but in their part of their journey. The other thing that we talk about is don't rely on the staff, on the team. In any business, there's never enough people. There are never enough people. There will always be times where you've got more customers than you have team members. with it, certainly for any premises-led business, obviously online and service providers, that's slightly different because you tend to be the one that's at the point. But actually, what you've got to do is to make sure that it's the physical assets are all working together to help deliver that customer service. And then think about the complete sale. Think about what it is, what are the core and linked items, and how you deliver those. One area we probably haven't touched on that is worth saying is that increasingly consumers are looking for experiences when they use particular businesses, and quite often by delivering experiences, by delivering some sort of added value knowledge, that will start to build customer service. So we helped a young lady that was a fairly new startup business with indoor plants. She had a fantastic display in the store, but actually what was interesting, one of the big growth areas for her that was increasing their sales significantly was providing workshops, how to look after indoor plants, how to create terrariums, etc., etc. So I think that is an area for lots of businesses to think about in terms of adding layers of service, adding layers of customer appeal, and adding reasons to choose to use your business.
Mike, before we get to the last page, we've also had a question from Denise, which is, what's the best way to train her staff to deliver customer service? She's got 2 part-time employees and they work different shifts. Does she need a formal policy, or does she need to sit them both down and go through the training at the same time? What would you recommend?
I think that definitely have a sort of a written charter, whether it's more of a policy, but that sort of says these are our customer service aims. And then what I would be doing with the team members is almost sort of a version of this. Use some of the slides that are here, take them through this workshop. It's available, but actually start to ask them what tools do they need to help them deliver the good customer service that you want. Ask them to understand what do they think. They're at the front line. What type of service do they think customers want to deliver, to experience, and then what tools are there, anything that they need to have to help them do that, and then to take it from there. If I go back to my days as a very young trainee department manager in a large chain of stores, on the back of the staff exit door onto the sales floor, so it was the last thing you saw as you were going through the door to go out, was a sign that said, "Remember, our service is only our customer service is only as good as you are delivering from here on." So in other words, it was reminding that that we can have all the policies, but it's what you actually deliver.
Fantastic. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, go on.
Should we wrap it up? So if
Yeah.
you move to the next page, there's a couple of links which are available. Feel free to either take a note or have a look online afterwards on the YouTube recording of the presentation. Sarah, would you be able to, just while I'm chatting, be able to put those 2 links into the chat, and then people can then take a direct copy of the URL. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left. Hopefully you enjoyed that as much as we did. If you've got any further specific questions that you want to share with us on the call, please do. If there's a particular question that we haven't answered and for whatever reason you don't want to share it publicly, if you just let us know. Obviously we've got your contact details from signing up for the workshop. So if you've got a particular issue or question that you don't want to talk about publicly and would like Mike or I just to give you a quick call, more than happy to do that. We can do that straight away after the workshop if there's anything specific you want to go through. So that's pretty much us done in terms of talking about customer service. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully, more importantly, you've got lots of tips and actions that you're going to be working on. There's two more workshops still to come, same time next week and the week after. Next week is implementing better promotions. The week after is planning for growth, one of my favorite of the workshops that we do. Do get in touch if you do want anything in particular to be answered. If you've got any feedback, we're really happy to receive any feedback, positive or not. But as I say, hopefully you have enjoyed it and you've got lots out of it. That's it from me. Anything else you want to add, Mike? Or if not, we'll hand over to Sarah. No, over to you, Sarah.
I've put, like Paul said, we're more than happy to hear feedback. If there's anything you want us to do to improve, I've put in the chat as well. I've put the Kent and Medway Growth Hub website, our email address, and a quick survey. It's 6 quick questions. If there's anything that we can do next week or to improve this, to bring the best to whatever works for you in your business. But yeah, like Paul said, we've got another 2 workshops with this. With our High Street theme. We're also this week, if any of you are in the Tonbridge, area, we're at the West Kent Expo on Wednesday, so feel free to come and see us there. But yes, I think that is everything from us, unless anyone has, we've loved hearing your questions. The more questions you can ask, the more interactive it can be, the more we can make it work for your business and what your setup is. So please always share your questions in the chat or the Q&A function, and we're more than happy to tailor and answer your questions so that you get the most from this workshop. If anyone's got any other questions, also in the Q&A there is a option to do it anonymously. So if you don't want to, I can never say that word, anonymous. I think I said it right.
Yeah,
So if you don't want to share your name, just click the box and it will come through anonymous. I always struggle on that word. It will come through without your name for us. So yeah, but I will follow up. This will be on YouTube, and I will follow up with an email to everyone as well with the links again. I don't think we've got any questions, I think we've answered them all as we've gone through. So thank you everyone for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Sarah. See you next week.